Now, the main reason that we have Dr. Polk Craig Roberts with us today is the whole Dominique Strauss Kahn situation. And in national polls in France, fully 60% or higher, the lowest poll, 60%, believe this is a setup. Kahn was set in polls to handily defeat and was going to be running as the leader of the Socialist Party against Nicolas Sarkozy, who is a lapdog of the Anglo-American banking establishment. I'm not saying Bilderberg Group member Kahn's a good guy. He's a globalist, one-worlder as well. But it is suspicious that normally, Al Gore, any of these guys can get away with murder. Bill Clinton, Juanita Broderick, all of it. But then magically this happens. The whole thing is suspicious. And Polk Craig Roberts has an article, The Strauss Kahn Frame-Up, the American Police State Strides Forward. So we'll cover that first, then get his take on the whole OBL hoax. He very eloquently a few weeks ago with Paul Watson broke down some of the glaring issues. Dr. Polk Craig Roberts, thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Alex.
Good to have you with us. Let's get into the Dominique Strauss Kahn. You seem pretty convinced here that there's some dirty shenanigans going on.
Well, I am, because from the very beginning, the police, instead of doing as they are required to do and give a defendant the presumption of innocence, immediately began painting a picture of a guilty man. So from the very first announcement, the police have been trying to paint his guilt all over him, and it continues that way. And so when you see that, it's pretty much a giveaway that they intend to convict him. And there's too many things wrong with the story. And one of the most astounding things is that the way they found him is that when he got to the airport, he realized he had left his cell phone and called the hotel and said, I'm at John F. Kennedy Airport, and I think I've left my cell phone, and would you see if you can retrieve it? Now, that doesn't go with the picture that the police put out of a rapist fleeing his crime and heading out of the country. And that was also the reason he was denied bail. The judge said, he was fleeing the scene and had run on a plane, and we caught him just in the nick of time. Well, they didn't catch him. He called in and reported where he was. So it doesn't really make much sense that if you were fleeing from a crime scene, that you would then call the scene of the crime and tell them where you are. So there are just so many things about it. Now, we do know that he was expected to be able to defeat Nicolas Sarkozy for the presidency of France in this upcoming election, and that Sarkozy is America's guy. We put him in there. It was American money and influence, and that another black mark against Strauss Kahn is that he let the IMF issue a report recently that said that within 5 years, China would have surpassed the United States as the world's leading economic power. And now this hurts Washington's prestige and hurts its ability to bully people. The people say, well, if we can hold out long enough, they'll lose some of their power. And so this also is a mark against him. And then I think a third mark is that he had scared the bankers, because he speaks of the need to re-regulate the banking system, which is run amok. And he has also indicated that he was sympathetic with Joseph Stiglitz's view that the IMF should cease to be a weapon that the rich use against the poor, and that the kind of austerity programs that are imposed on poor people, as in Greece today, Ireland today, in order to bail out Wall Street, that just really doesn't fly. And so he had a whole number then of powerful enemies, and had predicted prior to his departure for the United States that he thought Sarkozy would set him up with a rape charge. Now, he didn't mean in America, in an American hotel. He was thinking in France that he would be presented with this type of smear in order to reduce his standing in the polls.
Yes, sir. Let me add a caveat there. I have BBC, Daily Mail, all the big French papers. He was on record saying they could set me up in a car park claiming I raped a woman, but that's not even the big key. I want you to speak to that. And then this, they admit that a campaign staffer of Sarkozy put out the tweet that he had been grabbed for raping this woman before it was even in the news, yes, and before he was even arrested. And now they backtrack and said, well, we got a call from one of our operatives in the hotel. And it went further. The head spin doctor, and this is admitted, right, admits for Sarkozy, the big national Karl Rove over there, the equivalent of Karl Rove admits that he put this out before it was even known. So whether he did it or not, or maybe she enticed her, who knows, this is all red-handed that this was an intelligence operation.
Yes, I think that you're right. I cited that report from the Daily Mail and from Liberation in my column. And it is clear that that is admitted. Somehow, the operative for Sarkozy against Strauss Kahn knew before the New York police made the announcement. So that, of course, is more giveaway. So I think, I think he'll have a hard time getting out of it, because if you look around, the left wing will want to get him because he's a rich white guy, and the feminists will want to get him because they know that all men are always raping women, and there are just so many people that getting him is emotional satisfaction. It goes along with their agendas and emotional needs. And he's going to have a hard time, and it's quite clear too. To add to your point, Alex, that if he was actually serving the system, they wouldn't touch him. He would actually be able to rape somebody in broad daylight and get away with it in front of witnesses. So clearly he was seen as a threat, and he just like Eliot Spitzer, and was eliminated. He was a threat to not just the banks, but I mentioned to a wide variety of powerful interests. And the fact that such a powerful figure was destroyed indicates that he was seen as a threat, not as a servant of the system.
It definitely shows that there's a rift between the IMF and World Bank, definitely illustrates that there is a fight going on right now. And we saw Merkel last year call the big private banks like J.P. Morgan and others, crooks. They're trying to implode Europe. They're trying to implode the United States. They're completely predatory. I don't think at the end of the day Dominique Strauss Kahn is an angel. But at the same time, clearly some branches of the ruling class realize that this predatory imploding of economies to consolidate them will end up killing the goose that lays the golden eggs.
Yeah, that's it. Of course, there's no doubt that the man is randy and likes the companionship of women, and that, of course, is also being used against him. And I think that even among the Soviet Communist Party, a social conscience developed among some members, leading to reforms and collapse. And so I wouldn't be surprised that there are people in the IMF who've had enough of squeezing and trampling the poor. At some point, some people are affected by that and reform themselves. And there is perhaps a struggle going on in the IMF, but I suspect that's now over, because it's not just the arrest, it's the way he is pronounced to be guilty before any evidence is in. I mean, no one's seen the maid. We assume she exists. And who else wants to take on that role and be faced with similar treatment? So it's a huge warning shot to reformers to shut up and get back in line, or you'll be next.
Expanding on that, it certainly sends a message across the board, and we dovetail it with the Indiana Supreme Court ruling last week, and I read the judge's statement in the winning ruling, saying police can now enter your home for any reason, including no reason at all. That's a quote. And the U.S. Supreme Court said they can listen at your door. If they hear sounds that could be hiding drugs, ruffling, or any sounds at all, they can come in without warrants. And they're now announcing, yes, we're going to continue to expand sneak and peeks and non-terror related, and that now even local jurisdictions are using it outside of the feds. I mean, it's just a complete abolition of everything. And you see whether Kahn is guilty or innocent. If he's not given due process, he has to be set free. Better 10 guilty men go free than one innocent man go to prison. That's always been the maxim of liberty and common sense. And there is a war, a conscious war. I have an Indiana sheriff saying we're now going to do door-to-door gun searches of homes. We no longer need warrants. That they're announcing their avarice-filled, tyrant-filled desire to run wild over us, Dr. Roberts.
Yes, the Fourth Amendment's gone. In fact, look, Alex, this is the subject of my book, The Tyranny of Good Intentions, that went through 2 editions and a number of printings, that we've lost the protection of law. The constitutional amendments that can comprise the Bill of Rights are simply eroded.